Welcome to PR Powerhouse, helping female entrepreneurs to get in the press and to gain PR. I'm Jo Swan, and I'll be sharing how to harness the power of the media to boost your credibility and business visibility, no matter what stage in business you're at. Because I'm on a mission to show you that PR is not just for the big boys. In the show, you'll learn how to reach out to journalists and own your place in the press, because you are ready to become a PR powerhouse. Hi, and welcome to episode 11 of PR Powerhouse. Today, we are talking about your PR content, and I'm going to be asking you, what's your big idea? So you're 10 episodes in. I've got a feeling now that you're starting to get to grips with this PR business. I've got a feeling now that you're starting to really get it, that you're starting to really understand how it all works. And I do definitely feel like if you've followed all the episodes to this point, you've got really good grounding. You've got some brilliant foundations in place. So I believe that you will now understand the power of your story in PR. I believe that you will now understand that actually pitching to a journalist doesn't need to be terrifying, that actually you can be seen as helpful, as useful, that there's real value that you've got to bring in terms of what you can offer them and what you can bring to the party. So I'm hoping you're starting to feel a little bit more confident in actually taking some of these steps. So today what we're going to be talking about is one of the ways that you can prepare some content for proactive pitching. Now, proactive pitching is when you target specific media with specific content. So there's lots of different ways that you can approach the media, but this session today is all around creating something very specific with particular media in mind. And it's about really using that content to illustrate who you are, what you stand for, and what your bigger mission message is. And this is what we're going to really dive into today by asking you, what's your big idea? So we're looking at PR content. We're looking at what kind of things we want to pitch to journalists. We're going to be thinking in terms of a little bit like if you're thinking about what to do a TED Talk. That's how I want you to think about this. I want you to think about if you have that stage, if you had the opportunity for 20 minutes to talk about something that really matters to you, a subject that you just have to speak about, content that you just have to really get people engaged with, and you want to really evoke emotion around, that's what we're thinking about. So I think when you think of a TEDx talk, then you do think in those terms of what's that big idea? What is the big thing? What's the big message that I want to share? And that's what I want you to think about in terms of creating some PR content, because that's what we want. We want that same effect. We want your PR content to evoke emotion. We want it to challenge ideas. We want it to stir things up a little bit, don't we? We want you to be somebody who is seen as someone who is really connecting with people and really getting people to think and challenge themselves about what they think about certain subjects. So we really want you to go all out in this episode of digging deep to really connect with yourself and really, really identify what those things are that you absolutely must talk about. And that's definitely what kind of content you need to be creating for PR. So let's talk about how you can find that big idea. How do you know what that thing is that you want to hang your hat on? Because that's what we want to do. We want to find a subject, a topic, a discussion, a debate that you can hang your hat on. And this is very mission-led PR. So this is really thinking about what you want to be known for, what you want to own, and what you really want people to recognize you for. So I always do this when I do a masterclass. We have this little slide within the masterclass where we show people literal drawings of how our clients are represented. So they're like little caricatures, and they've got basically 3 or 4 keywords attached to that caricature, and that person is encapsulated with just those 3 or 4 words and this little image. And I challenge people to think, do you know what, if that was me, if I had a caricature, what would the things be that would be featured on there? What are the key things that people would pull out about me and recognize as me, as important and as individual to me? Do you have those things? Are you clear enough in your message that people would be able to do that? Are you really consistent in your message that people know exactly what you stand for? Quite often when I ask that question, the answer is no, because we're not conscious about it. We're not focused about it. We're not intentional about what we're communicating. And that's when it gets a bit woolly and a bit fluffy. When you have real success in PR is when you're consistent, when you rinse and repeat the same message and people really get to know you for that thing, when they identify with you and with your message. So that's what we want to get to. We want to really get to a point where you are really known and recognized for something and you're really owning something. So to get you started with this, today I'm actually going to share a concept with you that is not my own, that is something that I've been inspired by. So I'm going to share a concept with you from a guy called Todd Henry. Now, Todd Henry is a best-selling author. He's a global speaker. He's someone that speaks around finding creativity and connecting to your passion. And I just love what he stands for. I love some of the ways that he's got of helping people really dig deep and really connect with themselves and what matters to them. So today I'm going to share with you one of his concepts, and I'm going to give you some directions and pointers of how you can go and follow him. Because I actually think one of the ways that he talks about really digging deep to understand what you want to be known for fits so perfectly with what I'm trying to get you to do. So today, introducing Todd Henry. Now, in future, I would love to have Todd on the show, and that's something that we're going to work on to see if we can come and get him to do an interview, because I think that'll be a really fascinating conversation. But for now, I'm just going to share with you one of his concepts. And the concept that I'm going to share with you is something that he describes as knowing your notables. Now, this is something that I have spoken to my clients about, something that I have referred to when I'm doing masterclasses and things, because I just think it's such a fabulous way of connecting to what matters to you. So when Todd talks about knowing your notables, he's trying to connect to certain emotions that we have. He's trying to think about the connections that you have to certain subjects, how you feel about certain topics, and what really moves you. So he asks certain questions of you to consider to help you find what your big idea is. The first thing that he talks about is what angers you. And this is something that I always ask our clients as well, because when something gets your goat, when you are really worked up about something, then you are really passionate about something. And having that kind of passion is a perfect place to come from when you're writing content for PR, because it means that it's real. It means that it's authentic. It means that it's got a purpose, that content really has got a job to do. So when Todd asks you the question, what angers you? He's talking about compassionate anger. He's talking about the feeling when you feel like something is not right and you've got to do something about it. That kind of anger where you want to fix something, you want to change something, and it really gets your goat. Thinking about that really helps you think about, well, actually, what does matter to me? What do I stand for? What would I like to change? And that's a fabulous place to come from a PR perspective. I've talked to you before about how journalists like you to be on a mission. They like you to have more depth than just simply, this is me, this is my business, this is what I do. They like you to care about something. They like you to give a crap about something. And so actually, by you tapping into your emotions and what really matters to you, then your writing and your content is going to feel so much more powerful. It's going to have a job to do. It's going to have so much more impact. So I think this is a really fabulous way of asking yourself, challenging yourself, and really getting yourself to consider what subjects you want to write on. The next thing he asks us to think about is what makes you cry. And he says here, this is about the things that move us emotionally and are great indicators of productive passion. I love that term, productive passion. How awesome is that? He talks about his own love for underdog stories. He talks about how he really connects with those people and that he really is with them. His heart and soul is with them. So what really makes you cry? What really gets to you? And that is another place to channel really powerful content, because again, you're wanting to make a change, you're wanting to improve a situation, you're wanting to support people that really need it. So what makes you cry in that kind of productive passion type state? That's a really interesting question, isn't it? And the last thing that he asks is what gives you hope? And I love this one because this is turning all what we've just talked about on its head. So all the things that get you angry, all the things that you feel are wrong with the world, all the things that make you cross, all the things that make you cry. This is looking at it from the other perspective of, okay, but what if I could do something about this? What could the situation be in the world? What gives me hope? So thinking about what actually could be the end result and thinking in terms of optimism, thinking in terms of what do you believe is possible and really getting behind that message and that purpose and being a part of that change. So if you are really hopeful about something, if you truly believe that there's a way forward, how can you contribute to making that happen? What can you share? What can you teach to enable more people to have more hope? So I really love that one because I think that's a really positive spin on actually some of the same emotions and probably some of the same topics and content, but in a different context. I guess it depends what drives you, whether the kind of anger and the frustration drives you to write content, or actually whether the other side of it works much better for you in terms of that optimism and that hope and the thought of what you could achieve if you could change some of that stuff. So all of this is pretty deep. It's pretty deep, I'm not going to lie. But you know what? This is where PR is so powerful because if you can get to this deeper level, you can really truly connect with people and you can really truly engage with people and you can really play a part in actually sort of walking the walk of your mission. Because if you've got this bigger mission, the only way you're going to really achieve making an impact with that is if you are very, very proactive about it. And actually, you're very direct with that message and the calls to action that you want people to take. So thinking in these terms, in terms of what emotion do we want to evoke? What feeling do we want to create with our content? This makes us more PRable because it's really going to create something very different for journalists. It's going to make you stand out with the content that you produce. And it's going to do that job that we said right back at the beginning that PR should do. It should be creative and it should be about communicating and it should be about conversation. Because that's what great PR does. It starts conversations. We don't just want flat PR that is just about us being amazing. We want PR that actually gets something happening that really generates these discussions and that really gets people emotionally connected to you and your values. The process that I've taught you through today, I think is a really interesting way of you connecting a little bit more deeply with what really matters to you so that you can create PR content that then is so colourful and so rich that people cannot help but engage with it. So that's our goal. We want the journalists to love it, but we want the readers to love it and we want it to have a genuine impact on the people that are going to receive this information. So this should all help you think about what are you going to pitch? What is the PR content that you are proactively going to pitch to journalists, that you're going to introduce to certain media who you think, yeah, that subject would really suit that publication. That subject would really suit that publication. What is the big idea that you want to share? I invite you to take action on this right now. So I invite you to take a Post-it note and to write down what your big idea is. So really umbrella top line, what is this big idea that you have got to get out to the world? Write it on a Post-it note, stick it on your desk and always, always come back to it. Keep referring to it. So actually you are making all of your content tie back to this, not just the PR stuff. You're making your marketing connect. You're making your social media connect. You're making the way that you speak about your business connect to this bigger mission. And that's when it's so powerful. That's when you really own something. So I invite you to do that today, to actually define and write down in front of you what this big idea is, and then continually communicate that. And it will become more and more natural over time, and it will become more and more natural for you to then incorporate that into your PR. So I'm going to leave you there because that's quite a lot to think about. Even though that's a relatively short episode, there's a lot going on in there and there's actually a lot to think about. And I would also like to point you to some further resources. So I've mentioned to you that this was inspired by Todd Henry. So in the show notes, I'm going to pop in his podcast because there's actually an episode all around notables and he has a worksheet that you can go through as well, which I think would be super powerful. So I'm going to pop that in the show notes for you to have a little look at. And then obviously you can go off and explore that in more detail if you see fit. But I just think this as a concept is a really, really interesting concept because it helps you understand what it is you really stand for, and what change you want to make. And for me, that's the important part. That's why we are doing PR. That's why we are putting our heads above the parapet and why we are braving it, why we are fighting through our visibility fears and why we are daring to be seen. Because we want to make this impact. We want to make a difference. We want to make some change. I know that actually that is why you're in business. So let's do this. Let's work out what change we want to make and let's work out what we need to say to enable that to happen.
Thank you for listening to PR Powerhouse with me, Jo Swan. If you want to feel empowered and supported and excited about getting in the press, come and join us in our free community over on Facebook at PR You Can Do It. I would absolutely love to see you there so I can help you take those next steps to getting in the media.